Spencer, thank you so much for having us down. I think this is, as I just said to you, one of the most beautiful views we've ever had on the podcast.
Well, that's good. Thank you, and thank you for taking the time to come and meet with me and enjoy SLS a bit.
Yeah, well, listen, for people watching and listening, some people get into hospitality because they fall into it. Some people get into because they've loved it from a very young age. Some people had family in it. I went to hospitality university. That's how I initially got in. But can you give us a bit of a background on how you first entered?
It's not a very sexy story. Basically, I was living in San Francisco, which is where I'm from, and I needed a job.
Okay.
But I grew up, San Francisco has some amazing hotels. They have the old Fairmont and the old kind of Grand Dame for American, not compared to Europe.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up as a kid and always seeing these just beautiful hotels with these very regal doormen, and it just always looked like a cool place to work. And so hospitality was always something, hotels was always something that I was always curious about. I didn't really understand the concept of hospitality at the time. And then the Ritz-Carlton in San Francisco was opening, and they did a mass hiring. And I waited in line, and like everybody else, and I got a job. And Ritz back in the early 90s was very good on development, very good on training and development. So, as you know, being in hospitality, it's almost cultish to a degree. They almost brainwash you. But it's always about amazing service and taking care of your staff and
Yeah.
what is the end result, and what you're coming to work to do every day.
Amazing. Well, listen, today you're general manager of SLS Dubai. It's part of Enishmore. It's probably my favorite hospitality group right now in terms of like how interesting I think what Enishmore are doing. People in Dubai will know you, Spencer, but we have quite a lot of listeners in, say, North America, Europe. Can you give us some highlights of your career today, just because you've been at some amazing properties? So can you touch on some of them for us?
With Ennismore?
No, just overall, just your history.
Sure. I mean, I was 18 years with Ritz-Carlton, all over the world, not all over the world, all over the United States. And I was in Asia for a few years. I was in Egypt for a few years, back to US in New York. And then I came to Dubai. So, and again, it's been a slow, steady growth throughout my career, and I've worked with some amazing people and had a very blessed time to really learn from the ground up.
Amazing. And some of those properties included
are the Ritz-Carlton San Francisco. I was in Atlanta for a bit. I was in Hawaii for a bit. I was in Japan for a bit. In Osaka. New York, as I said, and then here in Dubai at the Armani. I started at the Palace and moved to Address Marina, which is now I think JW or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Armani, and then I went to Jumeirah for a little bit. So I started, my first property with Jumeirah was actually in Bahrain.
Okay.
And then they moved me from Bahrain to Al Naseem, and then COVID hit.
Right.
And then they moved me to do the opening for Jumeirah Living in Marina.
Yeah.
And all that time I was waiting for SLS to hire, because my CEO, I actually know him from my past. Okay. But it was just a matter of when this property was ready to hire. So
yeah, it is a stunning property. You've worked in lots of different countries, different types of cultures, different types of hospitality. You've been in Dubai for a number of years now. What would you say the major differences are when you work in hospitality here versus, let's say, rest of the world?
That's a really good question. U.S. is complicated because U.S. you have to deal with labor unions, so it's always a little bit more complex.
Especially in New York.
Especially in New York and Hawaii, actually.
Okay.
So it's a little bit more complicated to get things done. In Asia, it's amazing. Okay. And I would say Asia and Dubai are pretty similar, because Asia is all about service and product and representation, and I think Dubai has become like that. I know that there's a lot of effort on and attention from the royal family in regards to, and His Highness, in regards to service and representation of what SLS brand or any brand actually brings to Dubai as a destination. So,
and I'm right in saying it's been about 3 years now, SLS?
3 years, yeah.
Can you give me just the overview of SLS? What's the pitch in 30 seconds so I get a feel for it?
SLS is basically, it's a luxury lifestyle brand. And what SLS has really become is a destination within a destination, and I know that's a very overused statement, but that is actually the goal. We wanted to easy example is from a revenue standpoint, most hotels in Dubai is like 70-30, right? 70% rooms, 30% F&B.
Yeah.
Ours is 50-50.
Okay.
So we expect to perform as well from an F&B standpoint and in regards to destination standpoint, as well as a hotel.
Okay.
You know, so that's when when we talk about SLS, it's basically the idea and how it was explained to me when I joined the company is we want to every guest that stays here, they're gonna touch at least 2 or 3 outlets per stay. And the reason why is because we want them to really kind of walk away with the experience and overall experience of what this property is about.
Okay. And that kind of feeds into the ethos of Enishmore, right? Like I was
Correct.
just at the Hoxton last week, and I think that's a prime
And we're
example
fortunate.
of
We have good owners that really bought
Yeah.
into the concept and they really support who we are and what we're trying to do. Hasn't always been easy, but they stand behind it.
I was just with Tom Arnell from EatX, which has a bunch of restaurants around Dubai, and they do quite well. But we're in the tech world, and we have a pretty high failure rate when it comes to tech startups. You obviously might know that from San Francisco. Restaurants have a higher failure rate than tech startups. How much turnover of concepts, how much trial and error do you have to do to get the right concept? Do you have to change it after a year or two to freshen it up?
Actually, it depends.
Okay.
It depends. Like Karna is still a very successful restaurant for us. All we did was we downsized it a bit. I think when we opened Karna as being a steakhouse, as you know, a steakhouse it's a weird market in Dubai, and there's a lot of competition in Dubai. So originally we opened it with about 220 seats, and it was just too big, So all we did was we took the concept and we basically took the floor and cut it in half, and we're working with Seven Management on another concept called Tamara, and then we enhanced the Karna experience. And Karna honestly hasn't skipped a beat.
Yeah.
We still have the same people coming in, we're delivering the same product, service is still the same.
Yeah.
And then and Tamara, we're still building it as a concept. It's still finding its footing at this point.
It's funny you say that. Tom said his advice to hoteliers would be make your restaurant smaller. You worked at properties like Armani and Jumeirah, and they would be, especially Jumeirah, it's like, luxury really at a high end, but I don't think you'd be wearing t-shirts with the blazer and the shoes. So like, what's that blend of still keeping luxury, obviously lifestyle luxury, but the difference you've seen in the approachability of the team members? Maybe I saw you like shaking a few hands in the lobby with guests. You seem cool, and like, is that the type of vibe you're trying to give off and here at SLS?
Yeah, I think the service is still the same. We don't necessarily call people by last name, but we kind of feed off the guests. There's some, like, obviously in this part of the world, some people want to be referred to as Mr. and Mrs., right? So we're very conscious of that. I think the biggest difference is we give a lot of empowerment to our staff, and we give them a lot of flexibility to let them be themselves and find our ways to create touch points for the guests. In Jumeirah and with Armani, it was very SOP related. Everything is pretty structured and documented on how you do what you do in almost every situation. I think the biggest difference between us is we let you be you and find your way to connect with the guests and build a relationship with them. Because what we find is most of our guests come back because of our staff.
Okay.
And they're curious about it, they heard about it, so they come for the first time. But my biggest judge of success is the repeat, the ones that actually continue to come back. Yeah.
Is that a hard balance to get if someone takes the freedom of how to act with the guests in their own way? Do you ever have to pull people back in line? Is there a limit to that freedom?
Rarely.
Okay.
Rarely, yeah. I mean, we have a great orientation process, and we have great leaders in the hotel. So, and there's a lot of support within itself. Our turnover is not that high, so there's a lot of people who've been here since opening, so they can kind of help the newbies find their way.
If we go back to you for a minute, you've had a bit of a varied background as well. You've not just done traditional hospitality. You've had the kind of, I'm from a farming background. My dad's a farmer, so I see you're eco-friendly farming and gourmet food distribution. Can you give us a bit of insight on that? Any learnings you can take over from it?
In regards to sustainability and...
Yeah, just in terms of your experience in those sectors.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all learning it. I think it's something that, I wouldn't say it's new, because as Americans, it's always been on the radar regarding sustainability, especially in California. It's become much more important in the environment. It's very important for UAE.
Yeah.
And it's very important to Accor. So we're all kind of really focused on it now, and trying to find ways to be more responsible as a citizen of the world, kind of thing. So.
And is that something you see as like a benefit to guests in terms of like incentivizing them to come? Because like owners will always say like, what's the ROI? Because sustainability has been a word that's been thrown out a lot over the last few years. Sometimes it might be a little bit over marketing to the guests, but the reality of guests potentially coming to a property because the brand is more sustainable. Like I think a great example might be One Hotels do a pretty good job of it, especially in Miami as an example.
We have it. I think it depends on the guest, honestly.
Yeah.
If you look at GCC, maybe not. I think they like the idea as long as it doesn't necessarily affect them. And then the Europeans and Americans and more of the Western countries, they're much more conscious to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a hard blend to get right, especially in luxury, because one example I use is you go into the bathroom of a 5-star hotel, and if they have the censored paper that you take out every time it's censored versus having your own kind of towel, there's a big difference in that feel of luxury.
Correct. We still do both.
Okay.
We still do both, yeah. Because again, we're playing to two different customers,
Yeah.
So.
Love to get just a bit of advice for people. If you're a leader in the hospitality industry, and it's something we're asking everyone who's come on the podcast, is kind of, if you were to say one major issue you see the industry potentially facing at the moment, maybe specific to the Middle Eastern industry, what would you say would that be?
I think just the competition is fierce. Definitely in Dubai, the competition is fierce, and where we're fortunate being residents of Dubai is that, yes, there's a lot of inventory that continues to come, right? We have casinos that are going to be coming eventually, and you have the big houses that are going to be built, big hotel houses, So where we're fortunate is Dubai is always looking forward to find more market and bring more attraction to the city to make more people come, Labor market is always going to be a challenge, making sure that we get the right talent. And eventually with labor market is pay structure too, because the more talented people you want to bring, the more money has to be spent, and I think that, you kind of pay for what you get.
Yeah.
And I think eventually UAE owners or companies need to kind of turn that corner and realize that we can't do what we've always done. We need to now kind of change how we look at the labor market and how we look at the pay scales, and how do we continue to find ways to retain talent, because that's always going to be critical.
Okay. The great Gerald Lawless, the former CEO of Jumeirah Group, said that at an event we recently hosted at your old property at the Armani, said if you asked hoteliers back in the day how many hotels Dubai should have, we would have said stop at 6.
Yeah, for sure.
But leadership had a vision, and they just kept building, and people kept coming, and I'm pretty sure Dubai will probably outpace Paris as the most visited destination in the next couple of years.
Right.
But if you were to be not critical, but like looking from a helicopter view, given we're so high up and you're looking out at the city, where would you say maybe we have enough properties in this sector, but we could do with some more properties here? Do you have a view on the landscape of the industry right now?
Well, my biggest complaint, and I don't think this is personal, I think we all understand this, would be we need to figure out the infrastructure to get around Dubai.
Yeah.
I think COVID, the way Dubai handled COVID and everything has made Dubai really a destination that people wanted to move to. So they brought a lot of people to Dubai, but the infrastructure necessarily can't support, the amount of population that's coming into the city. So I think that's one area that needs to be changed. Areas, I know there's always been discussion about Al Quoz, but I think Al Quoz Al Quoz is actually a high rent district for Dubai.
Yeah.
Because it is just stone's throw away from the beach. It's actually a great area.
And if you like paddle, you have 500 courts around.
But you have every car shop there. You have some, some staff housing and stuff that probably needs to move, because I think that's actually great real estate, to build.
Do you see, is this the right word to use, the Americanization of Dubai? Like if you come in and MGM comes and Bellagio comes and Aria comes, and like I run down Kite Beach every weekend. It's like my favorite place because I feel the last non-pretentious part of Dubai that's left where it just feels a little bit normal. And I run up and I get closer to Marsa, and now I see the building beginning for those three properties. I'm like, oh, is it going to take the soul out of that area now?
Yeah,
You know?
probably.
What are your thoughts on the Vegas style properties coming
No,
here?
I think it's the next thing.
Yeah.
I think it's the next thing. You know, I've been talking about it for so long, you know, and I don't know how much will change bringing a casino element into Dubai. I know that there is a concern from a safety, security, and criminality of what it could possibly bring.
Yeah.
But I think Dubai handles that stuff really well. I mean, I just went to the Untold Festival 2 weeks ago, and I was surprised, but I understood it. But every attendee had to show a ID or a passport. So it's just like checking into a hotel.
Yeah.
So they had identification on every single person. And you're talking about something that was 40, 50,000 a day. Yeah, and they had IDs and passports for every single one of them. So just that alone in your mind, you know you can't misbehave.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
even if they didn't do anything with it, you don't know that.
Yeah.
So it already kind of keeps you in check. So I think the casino element, you know, I think it'd only be a good thing for Dubai.
Yeah. It's somewhat inevitable, but I think what we love about Dubai is the safety element. You know, it's quite refreshing coming back from London, what we have to deal with there. And you come to Dubai and you could plug your phone in Dubai Mall, charge it while you go shopping, and come back and it's fully charged.
I find it interesting that all the casinos are built on isolated islands.
Yeah.
So like controlled access for
really
everyone
is.
going in and out.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
for sure, for sure. We're in a hotel and residences,
Yes.
and again, I don't know the stats on this, but I would assume Dubai is one of the leading cities for hotel residences. How do you view that as a leader in comparison to just managing a property that is just hotel guests that are in and out, average stay of 2 to 3 nights, versus having, you know, long-term guests here?
Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing it I remember I did it in Jumeirah as well. So it's not something necessarily new for me. And Address Marina had the same element, and Armani had the same element.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for a bit. If anything, I tend to embrace the long-term residents a little bit more. I'm very visible in the hotel, so everyone kind of knows me.
Yeah.
And you know, you deal with the issues. You know, every once in a while somebody comes home and somebody's parking in a parking space, or you know, there's or somebody made noise next door, or whatever it may be. You're gonna have that, you know, and that kind of comes with the territory. But you give them the love and attention, and you resolve the situations that they have. It's okay, you know. If anything, it's a good base of business for me, you know, because they use my restaurants, they use my bars, they use my pool, they use my cafe downstairs, and so it's a good base of business for me.
Amazing. You've got a great location here, but like many properties across Dubai, and let's say you're a younger leader coming in and you're managing guest expectations, but as Dubai is growing so rapidly, you've got building around you. And we all know the benefits that come with building around us. How have you any tactical advice on how you manage guest expectations? And that could be building outside of the property, or it could be you renovating part of the property itself. But I do see it as a massive part of managing a hotel in Dubai.
The construction?
Yeah, but managing with guest expectations, right?
Yeah,
You know.
that's a tough one. I think, believe it or not, and I think everyone kind of knows that that's part of Dubai.
Okay.
Because it is a growing city. We try and manage it as best we can. If somebody complains, we try and move them to another room or whatever it may be. We work with the developer next door, so we're fortunate that they're actually pretty collaborative in regards to managing noise and the times that they work. And we work with the Dubai municipality, you know, because the Dubai municipality is they're very protective of the impression of foreign visitors to Dubai, you know, because they want to make sure that people walk away with the right, you know, with the right comments and the right posts on Instagram and whatever it may be. So we work with them. If we have problems, they get involved, and they're very collaborative as well. So we try and manage as best we can. Like now, because we're basically been full for the last 3 weeks, there's been challenges that have come up. But now these guys, they're not doing any construction at night. We got them to stop, so there's nothing happening at night. So
Amazing.
that helps a lot.
I'd love to finish up with a couple of questions that we ask everyone. Our kind of industry is more on the tech side, so we're bringing kind of guest solutions to guests where we feel, and again, you know this from San Francisco, and I think we could all be honest as an industry that we maybe lag behind other industries when it comes to the use of technology. Why do you think that is, if you agree with that? And two, what do you see the future of guest technology and hospitality merging?
Why do we lag behind?
Well, let's just take the front desk, for example. It's kind of like signing up to a mortgage to get into a hotel room.
Yeah.
And especially here, we got Talabat, we got Kareem, we got Laundry Heap, we got Deliveroo, we got all of these incredible pieces of functionality with a couple of taps and
yeah,
everything.
I think what happens is it goes back to the security of the country. You know, honestly.
But this is industry-wide, right? Globally, you know.
In US, you don't necessarily have to show your passport.
Yeah.
You can literally just give your credit card and check, and they never ask for any particular ID.
True, but it's still a physical interaction.
Yeah.
You know, you want room service. You pick up a phone and you speak to someone on the phone. You know, we feel like we
I think
lag
it is.
behind.
I think it is heading in that direction.
Yeah.
Like even now, we have for room service, we have an app now, so you can actually order on the app, and you have pictures of the food and everything. So it's going there. A lot of it is cybersecurity. There's a lot of programs that may work in the United States that do not work here yet. And it's not only cybersecurity with the country, it's cybersecurity with, like for us, it's the core. So if we want to launch an app, the core has to vet it, and if it's not approved or if there's a firewall or something like that, it may not actually be applicable for your hotel. So there's certain things that, there are certain loopholes that you have to get through to actually make that happen. But I think it all comes down to cybersecurity too.
Okay.
US, I think, is much easier, but here there's a lot of protection and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The future, I think it's going to be, I think it's fantastic. Will you ever be able to check in on an app and go straight to your room? That I'm not so sure. You know, because again, you need to register your passport, and I think no matter what, you're still going to have to stop at the front desk at some point. I know that there's hotels in the United States that you never even need to stop at the desk. You can just do everything online and whatever. But
Amazing. If we were to finish up and you were to give a piece of advice to the industry, what would your lasting piece of advice be?
I would say, for me, what's most important is really to understand the jobs of your staff. You know, if I'm talking to a future leader or future somebody who wants to be a general manager one day, you need to get your hands, you need to put your feet on the ground and understand what your employees are doing all day. It helps you with empathy, it helps you with understanding, it helps you with when you're not approving something, understanding the impact of that to the employees or to the workforce or to the efficiency of a check-in or efficiency of a plate coming out or whatever. You know, you understand it differently when you've done the job. You know, I think. And that's where, for me, I'm a little bit more hypercritical about students of hospitality versus people that actually work in hospitality, you know. And I know that I've met a lot of employees that assume that they graduated from hospitality school, that they could be a manager somewhere, you know, but it's not quite the same. You need to actually get your hands dirty and really get in there and do the job of the people that you want to lead to understand, you know, how to manage them.
But it's that instant gratification thing, right? Where the younger generation come in and they, you know, in year one, they want to be the general manager nearly.
Correct.
You know, but you know, how do you manage that? Like as a leader?
I think you have to be just open and honest up front. And this is, if you're going to come and do an internship in SLS, you're going to do, you're going to work the shifts, you're going to ride the bus, you're going to eat in the cafeteria, you're going to do everything that you know, for you to understand the environment and to be able to stand side by side with the employees that work here, you got to do the same job.
I would like to finish on one last thing, which is one of the purposes of this is that we give an indication and a view of the breadth of career opportunities hospitality can bring to people. If you were to speak to a younger audience and suggest some of the benefits you've had of a life of hospitality as a career, what would some of those benefits be? And if you're sitting down with a student today and you're saying, why would you suggest hospitality as a career?
For me,
hopefully it's positive after all these years, Spencer.
Well, let me put it this way: when I go to orientation or when I meet meet candidates, The first question I would normally ask is, do you like service? Do you like helping people? You know, and for me, I think that's the most important thing. That's something you can't teach. Either you have it and you enjoy it and you love it, or you don't. You know, and I know we get a lot of people that just want a job, and you find out very quickly they actually don't love what they do. You know, and you have to part ways, because you have to have empathy, you have to have care, you have to enjoy the people that you're working with. You can't look down on other people, you know, and you have to be thick-skinned in the sense too, because you can't feel bad because you're going to deal with some tough guests. You're going to deal with some people that may look down on you. You have to be strong enough to stand up to that, knowing that the company and the management is behind you.
Yeah.
You know. But my biggest advice would be, you have to love what you do. You know. Okay. And honestly, for hospitality, if you're doing it for money, it's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. You know. You do what you do because you love what you do.
Amazing. So. Spencer, listen, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good to meet you.
You too.
Appreciate it.